What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be very short and sweet. I have a pretty simple topic that I want to explain because it's something I get asked all the time as a nutrition coach. And if you are somebody who is looking to either set your macros or adjust your macros, or maybe you're not quite ready to reach out to a coach and you're kind of trying to figure this out on your own, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to be briefly discussing what you should be tracking: calories, macros, or both, and why. So this is actually kind of a trick question. And the reason being is because if you don't know this, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of carb is 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So by default, every single thing that you eat has its own macronutrient and micronutrient breakdown, but the macronutrient amount that each specific thing has is automatically going to equate to a certain amount of calories. So for example, if you are following a specific set of macros, whatever that may be, it's already going to be a set number of calories no matter what. The only way that that changes, and I think this is something that not very many people know, is a couple of things. First is in MyFitnessPal, you have to remember that pretty much every single thing is input by people. This just means that there's room for error. So someone could add something incorrectly. The label could be wrong. There's just a lot of room for error. And with that, when we log things into MyFitnessPal, it's easy for people to get confused because they think that they're aiming for a specific amount of calories, but then their macros add up to something different. So let's say that they have a very specific amount of calories because obviously, like I just said, the protein, carbs, and fats equate out to X amount of calories. So if they're trying to hit that and they're logging in MyFitnessPal, they might notice a discrepancy between the macros targets that they have and the calorie targets. The entries in MyFitnessPal could be incorrect. However, the FDA allows for nutritional labels to be rounded up or down by 5%. This just means that when you look at a nutritional label, you're never going to see an odd amount of calories at the top of the label, even if the protein, carbs, and fats, if you did the math, like so protein times 4, carbs times 4, and fats times 9, and added those calories up, it might come out to, let's just say like 122 calories. By default, the FDA can regulate that down. So it might come out to 122 calories or something like that. The label can label that as 120 calories. It's always going to be even. Unless you're dealing with like a small business company that wants to keep things as accurate as possible, you are likely never going to see the true amount of calories that that item has. Is it a large discrepancy? No, but it does change from the amount that your macros would actually be adding up to calorically versus what the label says. I think this is where a lot of people get confused because they're looking at something in MyFitnessPal and let's say, you know, they have a target number of calories that they're supposed to be hitting, and at the end of the day, they're looking at MyFitnessPal and it doesn't quite add up. Number one, this is totally normal. But number two, which one is correct? And the answer is that it doesn't really matter because number one, if you are tracking macros, like I said, it is automatically going to be equating out to a very specific amount of calories. If you're doing that, there's really no reason why you should be trying to like track calories. Like they're not two separate entities. You know what I mean? If you're tracking the macros and that's what you've chosen to focus on, then you can almost kind of disregard the calories because at the end of the day, if you're hitting those specific numbers, you're going to be hitting that set of calories. The only reason why this would be incorrect is, let's say your macro targets, wherever you may have gotten them from, equate out to 1650, and then the calorie counter, calculator, coach, whatever the thing is telling you to try to aim for 1500 calories. That is incorrect. You can't do that. If you are tracking your macros and those target numbers come out to 1650, you will be eating 1650. You can't eat a different amount of calories than macros, if that makes sense. And the other reason why there's really no right or wrong is because tracking macros is essentially just a more detailed way to keep track of calories. So we're all taking in calories no matter what. If you track your macros, if you track your calories, or if you track neither, you are still taking in a certain amount of calories, which therefore means you're taking in a certain amount of macronutrients. If you feel like tracking macros is a little bit too overwhelming, confusing, and intensive, you can then kind of go a step up and track the calories. So basically what that means is, using the example of saying, you know, your macros are X, Y, and Z, and that comes out to 1,600 calories. Instead of focusing on a specific amount of protein, carbs, and fats that equate out to 1,600 calories, you could just focus on the 1,600 calories. Is it as precise in terms of macronutrients? No, but in terms of calories, yes, because calories is calories at the end of the day. Of course, then I always get the question, is it better to track your calories or your macros? And you know what I always like to say, it depends. It depends on whether or not you have the resources, the time, the ability, and the understanding to track the macros as accurately as possible. Because the biggest mistake that I see beginners make is trying to overwhelm themselves with tracking macros, and then they end up giving up, where they could kind of just take a step down and start by tracking their calories, and then once they get the hang of that, they can track their macros. Obviously, in terms of body composition, food quality, if you have very specific goals to hit, of course it's going to be better, or I should just say kind of more accurate, because like I said, that's just a more defined way to track your calories. So I hope that answers your question. Unfortunately, nutrition is very gray. It is not black and white, and it is very individualized, so keep that in mind. But if you have any other nutrition specific questions, drop them in the comments below. And that is all I have for you on this quick tip video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe so you never miss Monday and Thursday with Manders, and I will see you guys in my next one.